Maybe you've seen the show Intervention, or maybe you've heard about the intervention process. I sat down with Heather Hayes, one of the leading interventionists in this country who has worked with thousands of families, to find out more. Intervention often plays a very important role in the recovery process, and it certainly encourages people to start moving in the right direction. But what is an intervention? What does it look like?
That's a great question, because I think there are a lot of myths about what intervention is. So intervention is when family members, loved ones, friends, employees come together to try and help someone that they're worried about. And they're worried about them because of their substance use. It could be their mental health issues, but they come together in a very loving way and help present to them the reality of their situation.
Why are they sometimes a good idea?
So I think they're a great idea. And one of the reasons why I love doing interventions is because I believe, we know that when people are using substances, their thinking's impaired. So if your thinking is impaired, the chances of you being able to have that aha moment when you go, oh boy, let me put the pieces together. My life is in danger and jeopardy. I've got all these negative consequences. I think I'll go get sober today or go to rehab. It's very, very rare. That's the exception. So intervention is a way, like with any other illness, it allows us to come in early to help people see things that they can't see because they're impaired and begin to get help. It stops all the negative consequences that haven't happened yet.
But the way interventions are portrayed in the media and the way we see them in movies or the way we read about them, it's like everyone's sitting in a circle and accusing the person of concern. You're a bad person. You need help. You need to go to treatment now. We're never going to speak to you again. Can you address those myths or the inaccuracies?
Absolutely. I think there probably are some people out there who still do it that way, but it's very old school. When I first got trained back in the 80s, I was taught you had to come in with the dirty laundry list of what everybody's done wrong. And I was not comfortable with that. I was also trained you had to come in, be secretive about it. And as a person in recovery myself, I couldn't make sense out of why are we going to lie to people and then tell them to go get honest with themselves. So there's some really good new ways that we do intervention and have been for the last 20 years or so, where we come in and it's very loving. We talk about our own feelings. We talk about everything that's right about the person and really keep in mind that it's an illness.
It would seem to be important to focus on the health of the person, the well-being of the person, to offer the person a solution. Is that how you would look at it?
I think that's really beautifully said, to look at the hope and to also look at the power of the relationships. So one of the reasons why interventions work, I may know a lot about substance use disorder, the mechanics of getting someone to say yes to go to treatment. I mean nothing relationally to the people I work with. In fact, they probably are thinking about getting me out of the room. But what's important to them are all those loved ones who've taken the time out of their life and the courage to have the talk they don't want to have, where they're sitting there with tears in their eyes saying, we're scared. We're afraid we're going to lose you. I miss my wife. I miss my kid. This is breaking our hearts. That's what counts. And so it's how we work together to have a discussion, a family meeting that's different than the kind of family meetings that you'd have without a professional there coaching you through it.
And the truth of the matter is that addicts can't really ask for help.
Part of it is because they can't see it clearly. So we see them. It's almost like we have to lend our eyes to others because we see them more clearly than they see themselves. And the other thing is that even when they ask for help, they don't know how to follow through. They don't really know what that means.
What about timing for an intervention?
There's never a good time and you can never do it soon enough. So there's always an excuse or a reason why not to do it. The reason to do it is because you can save people's lives. But again, if I had breast cancer, I'd want an early intervention because I'd have a better success rate.
Right. It just seems to make logical sense. And yet the disease of addiction is not logical at all.
No, not in the least. And I work with the most beautiful families, loving people who are begging their loved ones to get help. And I've seen, people because of their substance use disorder, just looking at grandma with tears in their eyes saying, nope, I'm not going to do it. I don't care. And it just blows my mind.
And when the person is saying, I don't care,
They don't really mean it.
they don't really mean it, do
No,
they?
they don't really mean it. And the addiction saying, don't you dare stop. If you stop, you're going to die. You won't be able to survive. You won't be able to take the pain.
Boy, that addiction voice is loud. I remember myself. The lure of alcohol and cocaine for me was the only thing I could hear. Pounding in my head, use more, use more.
Or waking up in the morning for me and saying, today's going to be different. I am not going to use like I did yesterday. I'm not going to make a fool of myself. I'm not going to fill in the blank. And at the end of the day, well, not really remembering because I was in the blackout. So the next morning going, okay, I did it again.
Something remarkable about you, Heather, is that not only have you been in this business for a long time, but you've also been in continuous recovery for 40 years. Did your parents intervene on you?
You know, they didn't, and they could have. So I really started to show the signs and symptoms. I mean, I would have met full criteria for diagnosis at 16 years old, and yet I didn't get into treatment until I was 21.
You know, I didn't have an intervention, but I really wanted one. I was so sick and in such bad shape. And I was actually in my head going, God, I hope my friends intervene on me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to do this myself.
Yeah. And, you know, in some ways, I wanted an intervention too. I didn't know what to call it back then.
No.
But the very first family session I had with my parents when I was in treatment, I said to them, why didn't you do something earlier? There were so many signs along the way. Like, why did I have to ask for this? I mean, I was really upset.
A lot of people think that the person of concern may need to hit what we call rock bottom in order to receive an intervention and in order for the intervention to be effective. Is that true? Do you have to wait until a person hits rock bottom, whatever that looks like?
Right. Not at all. Because often, you know, again, people are impaired. So sometimes, you know, rock bottom's death or serious consequences that you can't undo, like you've harmed somebody else or you've ruined your career. You know, part of what intervention does is a way to come in and raise that bottom and help people get that opportunity. Again, they're not thinking clearly. And so all the research shows that a person does not need to want help, ask for help, think it's a good idea for it to be effective. In fact, most people get help because they're pressured by family, their job, the law, you know, a nudge from a judge, a grudge, all of those sayings. And it's once they get into recovery, they get their brain chemistry clear, you know, off the drugs and alcohol, and begin to get some new coping skills so it's not miserable, then they can make a good decision about whether they want to change their life or not.
Yeah, I mean, rock bottom is not the desired destination.
And if you can help people get into recovery sooner, why wouldn't you?
What are the biggest misconceptions that people have about this intervention process?
One is that, you know, it's going to be a big, harsh meeting, that their loved one's never going to speak to them again, or even worse, it's going to push them to go out and use more. And that's just not true. In fact, interventions are very successful. You know, I've done probably 3,000 interventions and have had about 50 people not go. So they are extremely successful. And people will sometimes walk out, but they most often come back. Children in particular, teens, young adults, you know, often will get mad or make a stance like, you know, you're making me do this. I don't want to. But later on, they're able to say, thank you.
You saved my life.
You saved my life. I really needed this. You know, so it's not a harsh, blindsiding family meeting. It doesn't have to be. It can be very beautiful and loving. I had a mom say to me one time when we had intervened on her son, who, by the way, just celebrated 15 years. She said, this was the most beautiful meeting I never wanted to have. Yeah. And that's exactly, you know, again, it's scary. People have got a lot of preconceived notions. You're talking about a really difficult topic. And yet, you know, people would actually rather go get a root canal than have an intervention or call in the interventionist. But once it's over, once you get through that process, it really can be beautiful. It's an opportunity to love on someone and tell them how much you care about them and offer them the gift of health.
And it is an act of love, is
Yes,
it not?
Yes, yes.
Even though the child at the time might not see it that way. Why do you hate me so much? Why do you want me to go away to treatment? And really it's because I love you.
That's right. It's because I love you, and the path you're headed down is so harmful. There's no good. This trajectory is going to end up in death. And the route there, getting kicked out of school, losing your relationships, giving up the athletics you love, your self-esteem becoming more and more fragile and more fragmented. It's painful.
There are so many consequences.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what if the intervention is going well, but then the child refuses treatment? Does that mean you have failed as a family?
No, not at all. In fact, the intervention is every bit as much for the family as it is for the person they're concerned about. When we talk about interventions, there's a therapeutic term we call the identified patient. And, for me, my identified patient, the person I want to get better, is the whole family system.
Because it's a family disease.
Because it's a family disease, and it's an opportunity to move the whole family into health. And if the family doesn't move into health, the odds of the person being able to really come back and flourish and stay sober, really lessen.
Is it safe to say that interventions are considered a process, not one single event?
Absolutely. Yes, an intervention is a process, not an event. And sometimes it's a quick event. A quick process. The person goes to treatment quickly. And other times it takes a little more.
Is there a chance that the intervention process could make the young person worse or exacerbate the addiction?
No, I really think that people, this is a progressive illness. So if it's not intervened on or stopped, it's going to get worse. It's really uncomfortable to tell the truth and talk about your feelings honestly, but it's better to get that out on the table and to really move forward in a way where people start working to be more honest and transparent about how someone's addiction is affecting them.
I want to ask you about timing of an intervention. Does an intervention need to happen the very first time your child comes home drunk or high?
Teenagers are very, very sneaky. So the first time you catch them coming home drunk or high, the chances are high that that is not the first time this has happened. It's the first time you've caught them. That's when I think it's important to reach out to a professional, get an evaluation, have a conversation about it, because often you don't know how long it's really been going on for.
There seems to be a myth that maybe intervention isn't necessary. What my child needs is willpower. What is your response to that?
That's right. Well, my response to that is willpower doesn't help anything. Again, even if you took a kid and locked them in their room, I'm not suggesting that, and gave them no drugs and alcohol, if you don't come in and help look at the underlying issues, like why is it that they're using? What is so painful? What is so uncomfortable? Let's develop some new coping skills. Let's learn how to connect differently. Let's build up some self-esteem. If you don't help them have those resources, then they're going to suffer. And so they'll, even if they can quit using, they're going to feel horrible about themselves. So I think there is a lot of wisdom in really getting with a professional and looking at, again, what's going on in our family, what's going on for our teenager or, for my spouse, whoever it is, because there's more than just the substance use. It's got to be addressed. And most people can stop, but they can't stay stopped without major help. And how do you help them to have sustainable health so they can have the life they want to have and flourish?